Doja Cat just said this about the Chappell Roan situation.
These artists aren't ignoring people because they're full of themselves. There's a connection to the way that people are treating Chappell Roan for showing her discomfort, her disdain, and to be like, fuck the paparazzi is the best way to be, because fuck them. However, I gotta tell you, for people who don't know, there are people who are not fans that show up and they want you to sign stuff, and they go and they sell it wherever. And the thing is, these people might need the money, and it's similar to when people would sample my music.
What it's like. So I'm just trying to go to dinner, and I've asked these people several times to get away from me.
Please step to the side. Step to the side.
This person I've asked several times to go away, and they will not. They're hiding their face because they're ashamed. Because I've asked them. These are all the people that are.
Can you sign Chappell?
Completely disregarding it.
I predict that Chappell Roan is going to regain that anonymity she so desperately seeks. She's now facing international backlash after Brazilian soccer star Jorginho shared an incident involving his 11-year-old daughter. According to him, his daughter simply recognized Chappell during breakfast at their hotel. She smiled at Chappell and walked away, but was then allegedly approached by Chappell's security, who berated the child and her mother for...
You know the walls are closing in when Doja Cat, the undisputed queen of internet chaos, is the one calling you a diva. Let that sink in. We're talking about the same woman who famously declared her own fans idiots for the crime of loving her music, then burned the bridge entirely when they walked away. But even Doja's brand of madness feels like a bedtime story compared to the psychological warfare Chappell Roan is currently waging. Say what you will about Doja, but she never sent a wall of muscle to terrorize an 11-year-old girl. Chappell did. And the chilling part? She isn't shedding a single tear of regret. The true knife in the back, however, came from within the circle. Doja wasn't always the enemy. She was Chappell's loudest defender, a sister in arms against the spotlight. But then the truth leaked out. Once the real, unfiltered details of that morning hit the light, Doja didn't just distance herself. She did a violent 180-degree turn, dragging Chappell into the very dirt she once protected her from. By now, you felt the shockwaves of the Lollapalooza incident. Chappell's security didn't just intervene. They hunted down a child whose only sin was a silent smile of recognition. That girl? Ada Law, the daughter of Hollywood royalty Jude Law. A child left trembling in a hotel breakfast nook because a pop star decided that a fan's presence was an act of war. This wasn't an isolated spark. It was the explosion after weeks of Chappell's mask slipping, from humiliating photographers to treating the very people who built her throne like a plague she's desperate to cure.
Disregarded as a human. This is what it's like. So I'm just trying to go to dinner, and I've asked these people several times to get away from me.
Please step to the side. Step to the side.
This person I've asked several times to go away, and they will not. They're hiding their face because they're ashamed. Because I've asked them. These are all the people that are.
Can you sign Chappell?
Completely disregarding all of my boundaries. So this is then go away. So I want all of you. I have to time to please leave me alone and stop following me.
Can you give us something nice? Then what are you wearing? Okay, Chappell, no problem. You have your choice, yeah.
If you're wondering how.
What are you wearing?
The breakfast from hell, a predator in the lobby. Look, if a spotlight burns too bright, why step onto the stage? It's the ultimate paradox, craving the crown but loathing the people who placed it on your head. According to Jorginho, a man who knows a thing or two about high-pressure arenas, this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a targeted strike. He, his partner Catherine Harding, and young Ada were simply existing in the same luxury ecosystem as Chappell. The day before the world fractured Ada, a girl who once kept Chappell's posters like sacred relics, thought she saw her idol. A flicker of hope. But she wasn't certain. The next morning, under the sterile glow of the hotel breakfast room, that hope turned into a nightmare. Ada spotted her again across the buffet, the distance between them feeling like a canyon. Driven by nothing but pure, innocent curiosity, the girl decided to walk a quiet, respectful path past Chappell's table, just to confirm the face of the woman she admired. No cameras, no autograph books, just a child confirming a dream from a safe distance before retreating to the safety of her family. But in Chappell's world, a child's gaze is treated like a sniper's scope. The moment Ada sat back down, the atmosphere curdled. Jorginho describes a scene straight out of a psychological thriller. Chappell, cold and calculated, slowly raised a finger and pointed across the room, marking the 11-year-old like a target. On that silent command, a mountain of a man, her lead security, marched toward their table. He didn't whisper, he detonated. He unleashed a verbal assault so aggressive, so unhinged, that Ada didn't just tear up. She shattered. She sat there, sobbing into her breakfast, while the guard threatened to have the family blacklisted and evicted. And the most haunting part? Chappell watched every second of the trauma she authored, sipping her coffee with the detached apathy of a Roman emperor watching a gladiator fall. The silence that followed was deafening. It took Giorgino going nuclear with a public statement for Chappell to even acknowledge the blood on the floor. But if you expected an apology, you haven't been paying attention. Instead of grace, Chappell took to the stage that night and toasted her security, giving a public shout-out to the man who made a child scream in terror. You literally cannot script this level of villainy. Then came Catherine. Ada's mother didn't just post a video, she dropped a digital napalm strike. The revelations she shared didn't just confirm a story, they painted a picture of a celebrity so detached from humanity that she's begun to view her own fans as a subhuman species. Chappell, honey, here's a reality check from the front lines. Without the idiots and the 11-year-olds you despise, your throne is just a chair in an empty room.
Of the story of what happened today with a mother and child who were involved with a security guard who is not my personal security. I didn't even see a woman and a child. Like, no one came up to me. No one bothered me. Like, I was just sitting at breakfast in my hotel. I think these people were staying at the hotel as well. So the fact that, like, a security guard I did not ask the security guard to go up and talk to this mother and child. They did not come up to me. They weren't doing anything. It's unfair for security to just assume someone doesn't have good intentions when they have no reason to believe because there's no action even taken. Like, I do not hate people who are fans of my music. I do not hate children. Like, that is crazy. I'm sorry to the mother and child that someone was assuming something, that you would do something, and that if you felt uncomfortable, that makes me really sad. You did not deserve that.
We're also free to go into. The door was open. And so I went back to the table to sit and eat, and my daughter walked through the door. She didn't have her phone. She didn't try to take a picture. She didn't approach her. She literally didn't do anything. She just looked at her and smiled. And she came back and she actually said to me, Mum, I don't know if it's her. Because obviously she looks like, with her costumes and everything, she looks a little bit different. So my daughter said, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if it was her. I think it was her, Mum. It really, really looks like her, but I don't know. Maybe it's her sister. She said, maybe it's her sister. And I said, oh, I don't know, darling. And that was it. We continued our breakfast. And from that, then came the security guard who, as my husband said, had a very aggressive.
Let's be clear. Chappell hasn't been quiet about her boundaries. She spent months building a fortress of no around her, screaming from every digital rooftop that she's not a prop for your selfies or a pen for your autographs. But here is where the narrative turns from a boundary into a betrayal of humanity. We aren't talking about a relentless paparazzo or a boundary-stomping adult. We are talking about an 11-year-old child, a girl who, in all likelihood, hasn't spent her childhood scrolling through a pop star's manic PSA videos. More importantly, Ada never even broke the perimeter. She didn't speak. She didn't touch. She didn't beg. Yet, Chappell still gave the order to unleash a grown man on a little girl, right in front of her parents. That isn't setting a boundary, that's a power trip. But here is the twist Chappell never saw coming. The nobody she targeted has a last name that carries weight in rooms Chappell hasn't even entered yet. The sheer audacity of the attack suggests one thing. Chappell thought she was punching down at a defenseless fan. I guarantee you, if she had known she was targeting the bloodline of a global icon, that finger never would have pointed across the room. She bullied a child because she thought she could get away with it. Just when the fire reached a peak, the most unpredictable player in the game decided to douse it with gasoline. Doja Cat didn't just enter the chat, she kicked the door down. In a move that left the industry reeling, she dropped a video that started not with a defense, but with a confession. She peeled back the mask, revealing a raw struggle with people-pleasing and dropping the heavy, clinical weight of a borderline personality disorder, BPD, diagnosis. It was an intimate, jarring pivot, but the sympathy didn't last long. Seconds after sharing her diagnosis, Doja pivoted into a full-throated, aggressive defense of Chappell's actions. Her logic? She claimed she was Team Chappell because the new star was doing what Doja was too afraid to do, burning the bridge with the audience while the ink on the contract was still wet. She framed the harassment of a child as an act of bravery, a move that didn't just spark heat, it triggered an absolute inferno of backlash.
I learned from a very young age to pretend that I like stuff, to pretend that I'm happy, to pretend that I don't like stuff that I do, to appear like everything is okay. It caught up with me, and I'm now struggling with BPD. I don't know how long I've been, probably forever. It's an agonizing condition, curable. And I've been in therapy for years now. And I am so relieved and so proud of myself. I've made it so far, and I still make mistakes, but it is like an 8-year process of treatment and healing in order to cure it. I am witnessing a lot of people be upset with, and disclaimer, I'm not diagnosing Chappell Roan with BPD. I'm saying that there's a connection to the way that people are treating Chappell Roan for showing her discomfort or showing her unamusedness, her disdain. And I love that she does it. I love that she can be uncomfortable comfortably in front of people and protect herself and be honest. I had to learn how to be honest. I had to learn how to be honest with myself. I lied to myself for years. And to see her...
On the surface, the internet softened for a moment. Hearing Doja speak on her BPD diagnosis and her journey through treatment felt like a rare, human heartbeat in a digital wasteland. But that empathy hit a brick wall the second she tried to shield Chappell. Here's the reality the headlines missed. Doja wasn't cheering for the tears of a child. Sources close to the star reveal she filmed that defense under a different impression. She was applauding Chappell's scorched earth war against the paparazzi at Paris Fashion Week. She saw a fellow artist biting back at the vultures and felt a surge of kinship. But then, the full tape played. Once the details of Ada's trauma surfaced, the realization that an innocent child was the victim of a calculated strike, Doja's support didn't just crack, it shattered. Reports suggest she was viscerally disgusted. Even for a woman who has built a career on being the villain, this was a bridge too far. Chappell hadn't just protected her privacy, she had weaponized her power against a target that couldn't fight back. And that's a line Doja, for all her chaos, has never crossed. To understand the weight of this, you have to look back at 2022, the night the sky fell in Paraguay. We all remember the images, crowds swarming Doja's hotel like a scene from a disaster movie. She didn't wave, she didn't smile. She treated the crowd like a threat, retreating into the shadows because she felt her soul being picked apart by strangers. When the internet branded her arrogant, she didn't apologize. She incinerated the industry. This stuff ain't for me, she hissed into the digital void. I'm out. I can't wait to disappear. She didn't just quit, she declared war on her own legacy. She mocked the kittens, calling her fans delusional for building their identities around her existence. Then came the ultimate betrayal. She dismissed her multi-platinum masterpieces, Planet Her and Hot Pink, as nothing more than mediocre cash grabs. Her message was cold and surgical. I have your money. I'm headed for an island to touch grass with the people I actually love, and you're left weeping over a product I never even cared about. But even in that moment of peak toxicity, Doja was fighting adults. She was fighting a system. She was fighting the Stan culture monster. She never pointed a finger at a weeping 11-year-old and called it boundaries. That is the haunting distinction between a jaded star and something much more dangerous.
Which a fan replied to, I want to hear you say that you love us. And Doja said she doesn't love her fans because she doesn't know them. Daily Taylor T tweeted, and we don't know you, but we have supported you through thick and thin. And Doja replied, nobody forced you. I don't know why you're talking to me like you're my mother. But Doja's a hypocrite because back in 2020, she asked her fans what they wanted to be called, and they said...
Just when you think you've seen the depths of the celebrity disconnect, Doja Cat proves she is the master of the social bait and switch. This isn't just a story about a fan interaction, it's a masterclass in psychological whiplash. Imagine this. You're out, you see the icon you've admired from afar, and miraculously, she's not just nice, she's engaging. They started talking, the energy was electric, and in a moment of pure, unadulterated excitement, this fan, who also happens to be a creator, decides to give her the literal shirt off his back. It was a piece from his own brand, a Hot Boys Kiss Boys tank top. Doja didn't just accept it, she leaned in. She was touchy, she was smiling, and she even leaned into his space to tell him, on camera, mind you, that he smelled good. For any fan, that's a core memory. For this guy, it was a dream. But in Doja's world, a dream can turn into a televised execution before the sun even goes down. The second she crossed the threshold of her own home, the mask didn't just slip, it was incinerated. Doja took to Twitter, X, and unleashed a digital napalm strike that left the internet breathless. She didn't just say she was uncomfortable, she went for the throat. She branded the gift as a musty-ass shirt and bragged to her millions of followers that she had already thrown it in the trash. The whiplash was violent. How do you go from "you smell amazing" to "you're musty" in the span of an Uber ride? But then came the heavier accusation. She claimed she was manhandled and touched without consent. She painted a picture of a predatory fan who didn't even know her real name, ignoring the fact that the viral video showed her actively reciprocating the hug and leaning into the interaction. This sparked a civil war in the comments sections. One side argued that Doja was finally standing up for herself, a woman forced to smile through discomfort because that's what society demands of female stars. They claimed her BPD and people-pleasing history made her a victim of her own politeness in the moment. But the other side? They saw a bully. They saw a woman who used her massive platform to humiliate a fan who was visibly invited into her space. They pointed to the shout-out she gave her security for harassing Ada Law and saw a pattern, a celebrity who views her audience as a nuisance to be swatted away. It raises the ultimate chilling question. Is Doja Cat a victim of a toxic industry, or has she become the very monster she claims to hate?
Sure to Doja Cat because she's the iconic girl. Literally, if you ever want anything more, I got you, always. This is the
period. Happy Pride Month.
Pablo. Nice. Wait, what's your running with the Doja?
Ami.
Nice to meet you. You're beautiful. I hope you have the best night.
Now, after this encounter happened, Doja Cat proceeded to go online and say she threw that musty behind t-shirt away, which was a very interesting choice of words because at the end of this video, she said he smelled great. Apparently, the real issue was the dude being way too touchy-feely with her. Doja acted really nice in person, but on the inside, she was very uncomfortable. She tweeted, "Bottom line is, I'll smile at you, but it doesn't mean I F with you, and don't touch me and manhandle me when you don't even effing know me." I hear that. Most would be mortified by their favorite celebrity calling them musty, but this dude right here is capitalizing off of the attention because not him dropping merch of the musty ass shirt in question. I guess that's one way to make lemons into lemonade.
At the end of the day, the internet is forced to grapple with a chilling reality. Doja Cat and Chappell Roan might be cut from the same jagged cloth, but their red lines are drawn in very different places. Unlike Chappell, Doja, for all her digital vitriol and fan bashing, has a history of keeping the children out of the line of fire. That is precisely why her pivot against Chappell was so explosive. If this were truly just about artist boundaries, they would be allies. Instead, they are on opposite sides of a moral trench. The court of public opinion has already reached a verdict. One viral comment summed up the betrayal perfectly. "I stood by her when it was obsessive stalkers and vultures, but this is an 11-year-old girl who didn't even breathe in her direction." Another echoed the terrifying power dynamic at play. Imagine if this girl wasn't the daughter of a global icon. Chappell would have broken her heart in that hotel lobby, and the world would never have known. That's the real tragedy. This leaves us with a messy, uncomfortable truth. Doja Cat, recently diagnosed with BPD and fighting her own internal demons, is now the one calling for sanity. But does she have the right? Can the woman who called her own fans idiots really judge someone else for being cold? Or is there a fundamental difference between roasting a stan on Twitter and watching a child cry in person? I want to hear from you. Asterisk, is Doja the right person to be throwing stones? Or is she just as guilty? Does Chappell deserve to be canceled for an incident she claims she didn't even see? Or is her silence the loudest part of the story? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you're ready for more behind-the-scenes chaos, click right here to see our deep dive into the industry's most controversial falls from grace. You won't believe who's next.